I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. And so to really get right into this, how did you get into competitive Splatoon?
So I think I don't remember the exact video that got me into it, but there was two channels that I remember. One of which is Squid Kids. I think that one's still up actually. The other one is Squid's Next Door, which sadly isn't up. But one of them had a getting into competitive Splatoon video. I had recently gotten S Plus, and I thought it'd be cool to try out. So back then it was I think Discord was a thing, but it was like, oh, you can use like Discord, Skype, or TeamSpeak, but most people
Wow.
use Skype. And so, go use Skype. That was the first few little scenarios with Teams.
Hmm.
Moved to Discord in a few months, and that was kind of how I started. I don't remember what video from which channel exactly got me started, and unfortunately I can't 100% verify it anymore.
Yeah.
But those were some of the channels that really got me into it. And then, of course, I watched Dude like everyone else at the time. So
Yeah.
uh, those three
Well,
channels were really my gateway into competitive Splatoon.
yeah, it's weird when I talk to people that have gotten into it through 3 because I like have known about competitive Splatoon at least since Splatoon 1 and it's always like, "Oh, you didn't watch Dude to get into comp?" Well, that's not how the system has worked traditionally.
Yeah, that's like almost every single person from like Splatoon 1 or like even early Splatoon 2 is pretty much exclusively is running, or not exclusively, I guess, has
But
pretty
it's
much always
heavily
run into
Dude
Dude.
inspired.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I got into it sort of through Dude. It was like Chugga Conroy to Dude to Brian, and Brian's like the main player I watched that made me go, "Oh, I want to do that." um, but yeah, so for people that might not remember or might not have ever known, what were like Squids Next Door and Squid Kids? What kind of groups were they? Because I remember that they aren't how we think of team structures typically today.
I don't think Squid Kids even is a team. I'm pretty sure it's just a channel name. And then Squids Next Door was a channel run by Rocket, but I think it was also a Splatoon 1 team at the time. Rocket was like a very influential Splatoon 1 and early Splatoon 2 player.
Yeah, I have a friend that was on one of the B or C teams way back when.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wasn't sure if Squid Next Door was one that had one of those, but yeah, I mean teams back in the day were like generally pretty large. A lot of them came straight from Mario Kart. Like I
Wow.
remember Kipper was in Koopa Clan, and Koopa Clan was of
Oh yeah,
course
yeah, yeah.
a Mario Kart team originally. So the team sizes tended to be a lot larger, and so because of that, some people had different teams, usually with very cool names like Get Kraken and Got Kraken, Extermination and Extinction, stuff like that. So like it was definitely an interesting trend. I kind of wonder if that would be cool to see today, where teams would still have, I don't know, I guess some kind of connection with the second team.
Yeah,
But obviously it'd have to be done very differently. And even then, like, two teams being associated under the same brand with like 8 people would still be so much smaller than what two teams were before with like 12 to
yeah.
16 people. So,
I was on one team back in my like low level days, called Ink Eye Illumini. Switched it switched to Illumini eventually, but we had 8 player rosters pretty consistently, and that was an interesting adventure. It was a good time, but I don't know that 8 players as one team is a great idea. 8 players split into two under the same brand, absolutely.
yeah, that'd be cool. I think it's just a good way to keep interest in the brand, and you can, have teams in multiple levels, which could be cool. Some people are like big glowing viewers, for instance, so
Yeah.
it could be interesting. You just have to find a way to connect the teams more. I was gonna say, like on the subject of team sizes, I think they generally shrunk down in Splatoon 2, but even then, teams still have like 5, 6 people
Yeah.
generally. I think I could be wrong because my memory of this time is not great, obviously, but I think FT1 was really the first team to keep a standard 4 player roster at a top level before it became more of the standard. Like they formed with 4 people, and I
Yeah.
believe they've always consistently been only four
I
people.
think I
Obviously, this isn't counting the coach role. That's
yeah.
different.
I think
Four
every
players.
once in a while they've had 5, but I think that's been very rare and far between.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's, but like they formed with 4 because I'm pretty sure like other teams had more than 4 at the time. I think I remember like Oliver, Kraken Paradise
yeah,
having 5 people for
they
a good portion of
consistently
their
did.
life.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
so normal about the history of Kraken Paradise and Team Olive for sure. It is not something I fixated on for a while at all. Um,
yeah. Nowadays, everyone's 4. Everyone's 4 people. I guess
yeah,
that's something to talk about later when we get to the lack of teams these days, though, for sure.
absolutely.
We'll get to that.
We will.
Also, just to clarify for people watching, it's totally fine to have a larger roster than 4 for like
Absolutely.
majority of levels of play. I think 5 is even totally
I
fine,
think
even at
5,
the highest level. Just harder to
yeah,
you
I
you
completely agree.
exponentially have more people to more lineups to have to get used to the more people you have. So that's kind of the main downside.
But to move on to the next little thing we have, what do you feel are the defining characteristics of each game? Because you're definitely somebody with your Splatoon history series that you've been working on that knows a lot about it and
Yeah,
probably can explain it better than most people.
I haven't looked into redoing my Splatoon 1 series, but I've fully scripted Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. I mean, Splatoon 3 as far as we are now in
Yeah.
terms of the meta history stuff. So I feel pretty refreshed on them, and then Splatoon 1 isn't too complicated. I mean, everyone knows S1's like more defining. I guess like, I mean, speed is one thing people talk about with quick respawn stealth, but with S3, I don't think it's like as exclusive to it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if S1 is faster, I think S3 is pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I think S1's mostly just all the broken qualities, the brush overlapping, damage up, fully working QR, charger partials, big blaster radiuses, stuff like that is just everywhere. Like pretty much every weapon has some broken quality attached to it.
Yeah, why did
So I
E-liter
think
get to
probably
be
that.
like that for a while? It shouldn't have been like that. Why could
I
it
do
throw
admittedly
4
miss it
burst
a little bit,
bombs?
the burst bomb stuff. It went too far, but
It was
I think
definitely
we've swung
amusing.
too hard in the other direction now.
That's
I think
fair.
the weapon was kind of more interesting before.
That's totally
At
fair.
least I'd wanted to get burst back one day. I was hoping that happened in this game, but maybe S4 they'll
Yeah.
consider it. Splatoon 2 is just more coordination heavy. I think this is like a really hard one to have any disagreeing opinions on.
Yeah.
Like Splatoon 2, the devs were very clear that like they wanted a more teamwork oriented game, wanted more coordination. That's how they built the specials.
Extremely.
And then S3, I'd say S3 is more about space control, mostly because the maps kind of make retreating really bad
Yeah.
and constantly pushing forward really good. So a lot of that is like consistently keeping and holding space. In Splatoon 1, you could get a little bit more creative because you could just go around certain parts of the map, or there was a lot of freedom on a lot of the maps. So you could give up space sometimes if it meant like making a more creative play, or like you could try to get through an area in a different way. It was a bit more complicated than that, but I think in this game, because of the map design, it's like so crucial to understand space control,
Mhm.
not retreating. All that stuff is like really key elements to higher level gameplay in a way that I felt was not present. I mean, in Splatoon 2 is kind of a thing too, because the maps were also bad, but in Splatoon 2,
You had
like, their
missiles.
best specials just got you in.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a you could pop it and they might stop you. It's just pop it and go.
Who can
And
pop
so
their
the other team just
specials
stood.
better? Who can use their
Yeah,
specials together better?
there was no, or not none obviously, but there was a lack of back and forth in challenging that, so it didn't
Yes.
really feel the same, I guess.
One of my big things that I think about between Splatoon 2 and 3 from a very commentary heavy perspective, because I never so much minded the rhythm of playing Splatoon 2. I found it kind of nice, especially as an armor player back then. But as a commentator, oh my god. It is, you just said the same thing every game. It was the same things. And you would
Yeah,
try and find new
it's
things.
really hard.
But it was all the same.
I've like gotten a few clips ready for a Stingray video that
Oh.
probably won't be out by the time this is out, but same
It might
hearing
be,
like
I'm
the
slow
commentary
with
trying
these.
to go over Stingray, trying to talk about it fairly, or trying to like, I think there's one clip of 9 where he just goes, "Oh come on," or something.
And it takes
Like,
a
after,
lot
like,
to
the
get
5th
9
Stingray
there.
kills the Rainmaker on Snapper Canal or something.
I remember the...
I don't remember fully, but it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those. It reminds me of like Coney talked about commentating Smash 4 Bayo a while. I don't know if you're familiar with the Smash scene.
I am
like,
aware that she was absolutely busted.
he was like, it was so hard to commentate and act like the players were playing the same game or something along those lines. And I'm like, it's kind of the same concept here when I watch like
Yeah.
some non-meta comp fight
Oh.
quad shooter and
Yeah.
used like Stingray and 15 missiles, and it's like,
You're saying only
wow,
15.
they're trying to go in again.
That could have been 20 plus easily.
Yeah, definitely. Probably the worst era to commentate the game. For
Absolutely.
sure.
That's what I learned too.
Yeah.
I think the meta's in a much better place now than it was.
Oh, for sure.
And to move on to the next thing, how do you find the motivation to keep playing?
I'm not entirely sure, honestly. I think I suffer from burnout way less than most players.
Mm.
Even in late Splatoon 2, like, if I can think of only, like, 3 times I have, like, really got burnt out, or maybe 3. The first one was, like, peak Ray meta in
Yeah.
Splatoon 2, when it was just really bad. Even then, I never really stopped playing it or anything. It was just kind of annoying. I guess Endgame S2 is the main one where I stepped back less.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was mostly... I mean, I just had no weapons I like to play anymore, because shooters are just not my thing, and that's not a good thing to have in this game.
Fair.
And even then, I was still playing, like, Grim or Dynamo for scrims and stuff, playing a few tournaments, mostly just for fun at that point for, like, a year or so, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I barely practiced the game. And I remember that being a big thing, because I was managing comp and content really well. And then as 3 came out, I was like, oh, I have to actually practice the game now if I want to do well. Because, like, I could just flex a shooter and get, like, a decent tournament result in S2. And now it's like, oh, I have to, like, actually practice this game, and I can no longer manage content and comp at the same time. I have to, like, move forward with getting more editors right now, and that's when I made that big shift because of that. And then, yeah, S3 I've had... that's something... I'll talk about it more later.
And so... in terms of something you've done that even most other comp players don't really do very often, and you've done more often, what goes into setting up, like, charity tournaments and events like that? Yeah.
I mean, I got very lucky. I had a lot of TOs on staff, so I say I didn't honestly do as much as it might seem. I think the biggest thing was figuring out the format for the first one I hosted, turning it into basically a 2-in-1 tournament with the side order speedrunning thing. That had to be figured out because that wasn't a format that was really done before.
No.
So I had to be like, okay, how are we going to get the streams? It's like, you know, the idea eventually came along to like, okay, make sure all the speedrunners and all the content creators can stream, and then teaming them up I thought was an interesting way to do it. It definitely wasn't perfect, obviously, but I felt like it ran really smooth, all things considered. A lot of the staff working with me helped with some really good overlays for the stream and setting that up. So that was really good. I think I ran the streams for one of my events, but I think it was just one of them. I don't quite remember which one. Most of the stuff I did was TOing in the help desk, basically just like trying to answer people's question or help with seating. And nowadays all that is so much easier because of Senduing.
Yeah.
I remember Max talking about this because he ran 4v4 recently after a while, and he was like, wow, it's so much easier to run a tournament now. I might do more of these.
Let's go!
That might play a factor in why we have so many right now, because it's suddenly so much easier to run a tournament than it's ever been before.
Yeah, that's...
But yeah, I think it was really good that I had help with it. It was fun to organize. I tried to, you know, throw in... obviously, mine were all somewhat gimmick tournaments, because I wanted to just experiment a little bit. I like to use them as little tests to see, like, hey, how does the game feel? Like, my biggest one was obviously just getting rid of pencil stuff and a lot of the powerful specials. Mostly just to see, like, okay, I brute force an environment where all the other anchors are viable. How does it feel? And the answer is, it still feels terrible. All of them have shit kits, and so all the comps feel terrible to play. So, turns out the solution's not as simple as just getting rid of pencil, sadly.
No, surely Tri-Stringer's viable. I say coping with my 5-star Tri-Stringer.
I mean, we saw, I think Aruto played
yeah,
it.
Aruto's pretty good with it.
We had like 7 of them picked, so like it did work, but it wasn't, you know,
it's
we
not
had the weapons picked, but you could see the problems were a little deeper than that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like I don't know, maybe the biggest, I don't even know what you would do with a format like this nowadays, because I don't think there's really anything.
It's more flexible right now. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't even know what you would ban other than like,
maybe.
Honestly, probably the only rule from that I would do is maybe the charge up ban on pencil and probably extend it to edit to make short range cooler more viable.
Yeah.
That might be a thing, but like that's the only rule I can think of.
Yeah.
Even using these days.
No, I totally agree. I think the meta is in such a healthy spot right now. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's really hard to like find something to mess with these days.
And in regards to recent accomplishments, which we'll see how recent it is by the time I get this up. I'm a little notorious for being slow. You just won DivX.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
I did. Yeah, I guess so.
I'm sure. I know. I remember you made a little post about it, like, this is something you'd wanted to do for a long time. Obviously not, like, the craziest result ever, maybe. But still one that you must feel pretty good about.
Yeah, I mean... It's interesting because, like, well, I'm definitely proud of it. I feel like some of the other tournament results I've gotten with Dread recently are a little bit higher than it, but Ludi is, like, kind of this... It's one of those few tournaments that's just been around
Yeah.
forever, so it's, like, been an old bucket list of, like, hey, win our largest league in the largest division, which I hadn't done. The last, like, big Ludi result I got was winning a div with Neptune in, like, 2017,
Whoa.
2018.
Back when they were
And, like, since
letters.
then, it's not like, yeah, back when it was actually letters, so that would be Div 1 for
Yeah.
people nowadays, I guess. But it was like, you know, I had played through a lot of lower divs. That was my first time winning a div that we should not have been placed in. But we won it,
So
and,
you should have been placed there, is what you're saying. Obviously.
and we should have probably been in S div that season.
Oh, I see.
But after that, it was just kind of like, I didn't really enjoy the Ludi format as much for a bit, and I wasn't really in a team that ever wanted to play for a while, so for years it was just kind of like, well, no more Ludi, I guess, and I kind of forgot about it, and then this tournament, I got approached, I think it was by Kyo. I was like to play Ludi with him and Biscuit, and I was like, well, it would be nice to do. I was like, oh yeah, I have this goal from like years ago. I should probably do it. Like,
And
I can get, if I get a win, it'll be, something to check off. And that's kind of how I see it. It's like, yeah, I did this thing that I wanted to do from a long time ago, but I don't, it's definitely like, I don't know. It was for a while, and I think what makes this a bit special for me is that it's all modes, and like Dread in all modes is way worse. So I
Yeah.
got to, still show off the weapons like capabilities regardless of that, which was really nice. It worked in all of them. But at the same time, it's like I know the quantity of good teams that I've beaten is higher in other events, or maybe technically it's not. Maybe it's just because it's so spread out, it doesn't feel the same way as like
I
the in the zone run I had was like 4 teams back to back to back in the matter of hours that I
Yeah.
had to beat. So it's like it might just be that difference of
I think they're very
it's spread
different.
out over like months.
Yeah.
Mhm.
At least from having commentated other high level events and high level Ludi, they're definitely different skill sets.
Yeah.
Like, I think to do well in Ludi is a different skill set and a different mentality than doing well in a tournament.
Mhm.
Tournaments are a lot, like, 1 day, 2 day tournaments are a lot more about that, like, stamina and endurance and being able to maintain that mental, in my opinion. Whereas Ludi,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the 9 game set can also push you there.
Yeah, it can be really intense, but you also do get a feeling of security if you're up a lot of games, which can be a false sense of security.
Yes.
As you tell the Moonlight set, but like it definitely does feel different having a longer set for a bit. I feel like the early game is less stressful,
Yes.
just because like, oh, okay, as long as the set's even, it's not.
You've got
You
time.
have a lot of room to improve with it. So stuff like that's interesting.
I think.
But it's definitely a good tournament run for sure.
Yeah.
I'm still very happy with it. I don't want to sound ungrateful or anything.
No, absolutely.
So, like, it was still for sure.
I especially these days, I think Ludi can be useful for getting teams more opportunities to play, and that's more where I see the value of it than in winning divs even, is that it gives teams a consistent motivation to play for a while, and I think that's very useful for not so much top level like you are, but for the rest of them. Especially for low level teams,
Ludi
it's
is
just
still
great
really
practice.
I'm glad it's around. I think BO9 sets are fun to watch. I'm already looking forward to watching the next one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will ever be playing another one.
Well, what's the motivation
I don't really know if I'll be hopping in there, but I definitely want to help a bit more with the next Ludi from more of a trying to cast more of the sets and get it out there perspective, kind of like what Splatoon Tourney does.
Oh,
just on a
Splatoon Tourney's been great.
much smaller and less graphically intensive scale.
Yeah, Falco's
we'll get
wild.
the patch casting instead.
The fact that Falco gets all of that organized is so impressive to
Yeah,
me.
it's insane. We don't really have like a dedicated Ludi stream usually, so like
The fa-
basically attorneys just stepped up and become that this season and like I think the previous season, so that's cool.
It's really impressive to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so what other kind of accomplishments do you want to, because you mentioned it a little bit, what other kind of accomplishments are you particularly proud of or particularly want to accomplish next time around with the next game?
I mean, this goes back to like the S2 era that Prophecy had that went really well, like beating Kraken Paradise in event. There's like a time we beat Quantum or Demise at the time, like old
Wow.
S2 top teams.
Yeah.
I think I even have a win on FT Win somewhere over there.
Nice.
But the big one was obviously eventually culminated with PAX, where we beat 3 out of 4 of old like Deadbeat / STDX. It was after they had disbanded, but it was still like
That's still a good
roster of
win.
players that was good enough. You know,
Yeah.
we were expected to last, so we 3-0'd them, which was like a huge shock. And then FT won 3-0 their set, and we lost 3-4 to them.
Oh.
And I think for a while that had been my source of motivation of like, oh, I was one game off going to Worlds as like the NA representative, which is still like, you know, something I like feel is more and more insane the more years I am separated from it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how far I went. But because of that, I had the goal of like, oh, I really want to get back there. But then, you know, COVID happened.
COVID sure did happen.
Even though I was, you know, because I was pretty set up to be able to go back there for a while, but I unfortunately was denied those opportunities.
Yeah.
And so were other top players at the time. Like,
Poor
I know it's been
Starburst.
brought up before, but yeah, Starburst is like, Starburst was the most dominant. I think Starburst was the most dominant best team we had ever had.
Absolutely.
Like even more than FT Win's era or
FT
like,
Win was flashier. Starburst did it longer.
Yeah. FT Win's was really good too. Like that's no shot at them, but Starburst era was
wild.
Insane.
They were
and they
untouchable.
Were also doing the best against Japan. Like the Area Cup World Championships, they had almost won.
Yeah.
Multiple times. So it was like the consistency was just unrivaled, and their era was at the absolute worst point to have an era. If it was earlier, they would have had BNS prize pools, they would have had consistent majors and storylines.
They were at the end of S2 and the start of S3.
And then afterward, there was 2 more NA championships and the chance to go to Worlds, and like they still won one of those, but they won the one that didn't get to go to Worlds, and their era ended right before the second.
It was devastating.
It's so sad, and obviously that's not to like slight the teams that beat them or anything, because obviously
no, but like, Starburst was untouchable for so long.
They deserved a chance to go to Worlds. They deserved to have multiple NA championships, all of that, and unfortunately got denied. And obviously on a smaller scale, I dealt with similar for going to NA champs. I'll say where like I had multiple chances where I probably would have gone. And then the first time there was a PAX event in 2022, I was completely teamless, and it was events that I had no idea would be qualifiers for that.
Yeah.
Then I had Last Resort by the time the NA Open events rolled around, and we flopped. We got like 9th, I think, was our best result, but that was, you know, that was for the one that didn't qualify for Worlds. And then we had the second one where, again, another unfortunate situation in this case is the patch that happened 2 days before the event was the one where they gutted, like, Crab Machine meta for the first time.
Yeah.
And we had... I've told the story before. I had fully invested into Machine, and I made Arashi, like, 2 weeks before, go buy Machine from the shop and play it. So we full sended, because in other modes, the double Splatana stuff just wasn't as strong.
Yeah.
And, like, we had some maps that wasn't as strong, so like, we were like, okay, we're already probably there at a top 4 level, but what if we full send Crab meta?
Oh, no.
Just learn how to do the double Machine, double Crab stuff, and get the win there. And then 2 days before, the nerfs happen, and mainly Machine is, like, feels so much worse, and everyone's like, oh my god, Machine is not worth using, which... At the time, it was probably still worth using just for what people ran. But, like, eventually, that was right. Like, you haven't seen a Machine in a long time. Cause
I have, but I've commentated too much low level.
It's not, like, at this level, no one plays it.
No, you can't.
And even its resurgence it had was just when Zuka got buffed, which wasn't a thing at the time. Because it was like, oh, you can censor people for your double bazookas to go insane.
Yeah.
So, at the time, I was like... My Stamper wasn't feeling super consistent, which is what I probably should have just stuck with.
But you couldn't have known
range because, you know, Cooler and stuff was recent. And then S-Blast came out, and S-Blast felt good. And I knew S-Blast would probably work fine without Cooler, which was something really good even about old S-Blast.
Yeah.
And then I think it was our coach Slacker who was like, yeah, no, Cooler is definitely better. And we fought Cooler teams that were struggling because Cooler was still new.
Yes.
At the time, and we, like, full sent the S-Blast idea. We took a game off of, I think it was Starburst, yeah, and we got to Winners Finals, took a game off Starburst, lost to them, and then, you know, lost in Losers Bracket, and it was like, oh, so close, let's do it again. We had to worry about DNA counterpicking us with double 52. We practiced for that, beat them 3-0,
Yeah.
We did it. We got through our counter pick, had like what we thought was a very simple bracket path, and then the pressure got to us and we just panicked. And it was legitimately like, it was mostly just pressure of the event, because I think we all knew at that point that we even if we didn't beat Crush Soda, that we would probably win. Our biggest competition besides that was Duck Motif,
Yeah.
who we literally beat last time.
Yeah.
And
was never admittedly the strongest team by any means.
And they ended up qualifying, but we had that, and I remember there was like that pressure that I had. Like, it wasn't felt the first game. Like, the first game we played really well. I remember I hit like some super jump direct and stuff. It was good. We lost lead on Rainmaker at the very end.
Oh.
And then the pressure that point onward destroyed my play. Every game after that, I played horrible. And then, rest is history. Eeltail Brine Water is where we lost in all of our NA Opens, and we lost that. And to this day, we lost to In Control at the time, and then In Control eventually got like third. They had a very good run. They upset like 3 teams besides
They
us.
did.
So, like, they
my partner was playing.
But it was definitely a spot for us where it was like, this was the opportunity, and for me it was like, I finally get to go back, I get to see my teammates in person and all that, get that experience again, and
too much pressure.
Yeah, and like the pressure of all of that, like waiting all those years, fumbling the previous event, the shifts to playing a weapon that I knew, like, from a lot of people was like, a lot of pressure on me for picking that kind of weapon at the time. All of that got to me at once, and it became like too much there. My mental totally folded, and mental on everyone folded. It wasn't just me.
Yeah.
I think everyone but like Storm like started to play worse, and we talked about that after, but
It's
I
so
definitely
hard.
like see that as my most devastating loss. Like, we talked about that. The team tried to recover after that, and I don't think that result was the reason the team eventually died. I think it was mostly double crab meta, as much as we disliked it a bit, was something that our team style fit into perfectly.
Yeah.
We never had a comp structure that really worked. We never really had a pencil player. Storm wasn't a big fan of ballpoint, any of that. It's like, our comps just kind of fell apart.
Yeah. Ballpoint, I always forget that I don't necessarily forget because I played it. I always half forget that there was a little ballpoint era in Splatoon 3, just for fun. And it was a very fun little time for me. I enjoyed it. But I can see how that would be frustrating.
Yeah, and then the worst part is after that, we didn't know. We were like, okay, maybe we'll get another chance next year.
Yeah.
No NA championships happen next year.
Yeah.
Right? And
support just kind of disappeared.
I think Australia was the only one that had their champs, and then Japan got the King's Cup, but NA and EU got nothing again, and it looks like...
It seems like that'll be the case till 4. Yeah.
Obviously there's no COVID this time, but I think something that's important to understand is that these events are still big promotions for Nintendo. I remember, Worlds obviously got canceled due to the bombing threats that got moved and stuff.
Yeah.
And around the time Worlds was supposed to happen, Nintendo just shadow dropped the side order release date trailer, and it was pretty obvious. It's like, oh,
you wanted that to be at Worlds.
To be the Worlds reveal.
Oh, and I remember, Octo Expansion was dropped at the end of Worlds, wasn't it?
Yeah, Octo Expansion was dropped.
Oh, it was so sick.
The 2019 NA champs that I competed at dropped the third kits, like the
kits
and Dapple Intent. So like, these are advertisements.
And they're usually really good ones.
The reason these don't happen anymore is there's nothing to advertise.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's the unfortunate reality. I know Popkins talked about it, but it's like...
It's why we can't rely on them as a community necessarily.
I remember Popkins talking about like the top 4 set and like how half the time of the top 4 was taken up by ads, and I'm like...
Yeah?
Yeah, of course they are. They'll make us wait in the room before starting so they can run more, because like that, they have to get something out of it. I don't even blame them for that.
No, it's what they need to do.
Be clear.
Well, like, and you've also...
If that means we get the events, then...
Yeah, then no complaints. It was very weird when I did commentate for Nintendo, because it was like, oh, I have downtime.
Yeah.
Because we've gotten rid of that.
For sure.
I guess? I don't know. I'm so used now to just rolling through constantly and never stopping that it's like... Because that wasn't always the case with... For Splatoon 2, we would often still take time off between sets, but with Splatoon 3, we were like, oh, people leave when we do that. If we keep commentators talking the whole time, people stay more. And so now I'm so used to that whenever I get a break, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
We can do that? I can stop talking? Yeah. That doesn't seem right.
to bring it back to NHM stuff, it's like now it feels like kind of the same scenario where obviously I'm not a player, but I'm still a coach. I'm still on the roster where I'm on a team that would probably be able to place top 4
Yep.
again. And once again, there's no events. So like, it seems like I'm a little cursed here when it comes to these events.
I don't think it's
So
just you,
that has been like,
though.
yeah, I mean, not just me for sure, but I've felt like, I don't know, it's like, I have been desperately wanting to at least go there again. I don't even care if I don't make Worlds, right?
Yeah.
I've accepted in the last year or two that may be the peak of my results because it's going to be really hard
That's
to get, past that. That like the only way I top that is getting to Worlds or winning like a JP full-on tournament, like a stacked Area Cup or Area Cup World Championship thing. So it's like the odds of passing that result are very low, and I've definitely gotten the perspective of, oh, okay, I've accepted that, like, that might be my peak, and I'm still very satisfied with that. That's obviously a lot higher than I could have ever hoped to get to.
Yeah.
At the same time, I like to talk about this a lot because Moonlight also deals with this of, like, something to explain for people who aren't, like, at this level. The closer you get to winning or going to these, the worse it feels.
Yeah.
Not better. It feels so much worse every time. So for me, it's like I am the closest of it could possibly be to going to the most prestigious event ever. That's a thing that'll weigh on you constantly.
Yeah.
That's also why the PAX one weighs on you, because it's like we literally lost 2-3, and I know if we win that set and get over the nerves, we probably just go.
Yeah.
We probably win the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is there. Yeah, after that, I coached Moonlight for a bit, so I've been playing the game a bit, but not as much. And I said there was one more era I felt more down about the game, and this was late 2024 or mid 2024, after Range came out.
Interesting.
So CRB came out. It was my dream kit with a weapon. Range is really good. So Range is my favorite weapon. Besides S+.
Yeah.
I think I like S+ a little more, but like favorite weapon. It's super broken, and I grinded it a ton when it came out. I had fun with it.
Yeah.
But I think something that ended up happening, and it was the same thing that led me to drop Sword for a while, is I felt like I was not keeping up with the best players of that weapon, and I couldn't really figure out why, but my motivation wasn't fully there, and that was the issue. Stamper, I just realized my blasters were better at some point, but Ranger was just like, it was a motivation issue more than anything else. Like, I grinded it that first month, and then I, like, went lower down, and I was falling off, and I didn't really understand why at first. Like, I was struggling to understand why I wasn't feeling as motivated, because I still really liked the weapon and playing it for fun. I enjoyed using Kraken. I speculated at the time that part of it might have just been the weaker special feels annoying to play with, but I don't think that's the full answer, and I'll get to that in a bit. But I was struggling with that, and so then I tried to change it up to using, like, Rapid Pro, stuff like that, that I was a little bit better with Rapids, so I was like, why don't I use Rapids? I was struggling to find comps to play with, and then the few tournaments I was entering were probably my lowest point in terms of results. I was consistently losing before even making it to +1 teams.
Wow.
For like a few months, like with different pickups and different weapons. And I was struggling. The rapid stuff went a little better, but still was nothing crazy. And I was really questioning at the time of like, am I just like dropping off? Is it just over? Like, I wouldn't be done with comp, it'd be like, have I peaked basically?
Yeah.
Is my era done? And the Dread tournament that I got, the first in the Zone one, where I literally played the weapon by accident. It's just because we couldn't find a front line. That whole story is there in the Zone video. That turned into this insane run where I went from losing to not even making it to +1 teams to beating, what is it? I beat like an Obito stacked E squad. There was a different, I beat the Fuzzy Gray Zera's pickup.
Which that's a crazy pickup.
The Volti pickup beat the Gray pickup in an upset, and then we beat them again.
Yeah.
So I got 4 big results all back to back, and that was probably the most emotional I had been with a tournament run. I was like really feeling it there because I'm like, holy shit, I can still do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, right then and there, I knew immediately I'm gonna push this weapon. I don't care how good it actually is because this clearly fucking works.
Yeah.
And I can play with the pencil again, so I can actually play the game.
That is how it goes, sadly.
And then, from there I've gone like 5 other big results.
Yeah.
I beat like a Gray Zera's pickup again, like a better one they had twice. I had won a tournament against E-Leader where I got to reverse sweep 6-0. I won Ludi. I won a different event against like a Zenith Dylan pickup. Like I beat them 2 out of 3 times as well. I had a few results like that. Obviously some duds as well, because I just entered as much stuff as possible.
Yeah.
I was still figuring out. Dread Comps was a big one, like what I played with and stuff. I had to fully innovate that, because
nobody else was doing
wasn't
it.
playing tournaments at the time. No one was doing so. I had to figure out all of this. I had to like scrim and enter tournaments and just completely make up the comps I want.
Yeah.
And now I have a good understanding, but that took a few months to like really figure out.
I'm sure. It seems like it would have been a beast.
I think that it worked mainly because I feel like Splatoon 2 kind of ingrained me into being a more supportive player, and I feel like that's where a lot of my strengths lie as a player, is like understanding what's going on and what I need to do and keeping map control and like chip damage for teammates. And so because of that, Dread fit my playstyle better, and then the special problem was fixed, where like Cider isn't amazing, but like I can play around that, and I'm good at playing around initiation specials, which wasn't what Kraken and Wave was.
No.
And, you know, it's kind of gotten me to separate a bit more, because typically the weapons I've liked the most have been what I'm good at, right? But I feel like this game is the first time where like, okay, the weapons I like the most are not my best weapons. And part of that's probably just because other people have gotten better and like the scene's progressed and all that. So like the skill ceiling of these weapons is just way higher.
The skill ceilings, so like every once in a while I'll hear somebody say, oh, I wish this player would come back. It would change things so much. And it's like, I think they don't understand how much the skill ceiling has changed. Like
most people who come back are at a worse level than when they started, and it's not even because they got drastically worse. It's everyone else just constantly gets better.
And
that's just how it works.
And it's so wild to see it. Like, there was a post I saw on Blue Sky a few weeks ago, like, oh, why am I down a few divs? And it's like, you haven't played in a tournament in a while. Like a year.
That's why rank decay is a thing in this game. That's why rank decay is a common thing for shooters, because like, oh yeah, when you come back, you're not still plat, you're probably now a gold player.
And it's not that you're worse, it's that everyone else is better.
That's just how it works. But yeah, I'm like, now at this point, I'm like a little bored of Dread again. I'm still like set to play competitively, but I've been trying a bit of Stamper this week.
Oh, fun!
Again, and it's been going surprisingly a bit better. It's still very inconsistent, but mainly my casters are much better.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like I'm fitting it a little better. It might be because Stamper does have a little bit more range poking stuff using special to initiate, so it might be in the middle, but it's still more mechanically focused, so, you know, more mechanically focused, more focused on getting kills, so who knows if it'll actually work out, and it's just hard. But
it's hard.
I've been enjoying playing it again for sure. My only real gripe with Dread is just there's nothing to use alongside it. If I had like a second kit with Dread that could deal with scenarios where it's weaker, like Grand Roll just plays Bucket on like Undertow or Eeltail or something, and I can't do that because I play with 2 other Slayers. We don't have enough paint.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been like late 2024, early 2025 has definitely been like a big part of my competitive journey for just like figuring out what I need to do to win, grateful to all the tournament runs I got, and just kind of reinventing myself as a player. And, you know, it's definitely changed my identity a bit. I know some people miss the blasters and like playing them, and I miss playing them too. I try to play them for fun more,
but sometimes something just doesn't work for you in competitive, and that's not a bad thing necessarily.
And also, like, I can't just use every weapon I like. I like Explosher and a bunch of other stuff. It's like, I can't play everything I want even if I did. The only weapon that I liked that I'd be unsure how I'd do nowadays would be Brella. Because Brella was a weapon that I felt like I was mechanically very strong at. I'm like saying mechanically. Mechanically is not even the right word. I had good mechanics with blasters and stuff as well at the time. Just, like, I guess it's more the mindset ready to position and take fights and, like, Shark. Especially Sharking. I'm, like, so bad at, like, patiently hiding. I'm, like, constantly poking.
It's
I gotta, like,
painful to me. I hate sharking. Why do I need to sit still for 2 seconds? That's a crime.
I think, in general, I feel like, I've learned a bit more about myself, and I'm like, you know, it's an ongoing experience, and that's part of why motivation hasn't really died out for me, is like, there's always something more to learn, something to do, but I feel like to stay, you know, to stay good for a long time, you have to constantly be willing to look at yourself and reinvent yourself and stuff like that. And it put a big spot like that for me. I could have probably been way better way sooner in this game if I took the mindset of I am a supportive player.
Yeah.
What weapons would I have played before Dread was good? Was Slider? I don't know. Non-shooter supports that are good are a dime a dozen, but who
Yeah.
knows, maybe I would have invested in, like, something. Who knows?
Yeah, I can't think of what it could have been in 3.
Yeah.
Well, I say that like there were any in 2. In 2, there were only shooters.
I mean, in 2, just Brella was fine for me, so
Yeah.
I didn't have that gripe. I could play Brella forever. Or almost forever.
I definitely
I'd love to try Brella again, I guess, just out of nowhere. I'd love to try Brella again. If it ever gets its damage buff, I will definitely experiment with it. No promises, but
you never know.
That weapon is something where, like, I don't know if I would keep up with that one better, but, like, I feel like that one was the one where I had the easiest time, like, committing to being aggressive for one reason or another. It worked for me.
I had a big phase with Kensa Undercover Brella and probably would still play around with it if it existed still. I really liked I just really liked that kit. I liked being an annoying fly on the wall a lot.
Yeah.
But also, it got its 2 weeks. It had its 2 weeks in the sun. It will never happen again. Undercover isn't really meant to be a comp weapon, in my opinion. It's much more so designed to be a very fun casual weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that those exist in Splatoon for good reasons too. They've created a game that has to cater to both audiences.
Yeah.
And on that kind of note, what are some things that you would like to see change, either in the game or with the scene?
All right, 5 things. I'll try to make it fast because I know it's a lot. First off, content, especially from, like, higher level players, but players in general. Though I feel like I'm seeing other levels of play have more content.
Definitely.
Top level still needs to step up.
Yeah.
We need more brands. Just to make a comparison here that I feel like people don't talk about. Japan also doesn't have a lot of teams, and they haven't for a long time.
Yeah.
But they have so many strong individual player brands, just like channels and stuff. I know obviously it's different because Japan is just a larger scene, but part of the reason they are a larger scene is these channels and brands. So, like, I feel like the lack of teams would be less big a problem if people had identities to attach to, had people that they wanted to see in a tournament. Like, if Dude entered a tournament,
oh my god,
would people have more stakes with Dude being on a team? Sure. But if Dude played on a pickup, a lot of people would still care about that pickup because Dude is on it. And same thing goes for Kyo's pickups or Jordan's pickups nowadays, for, like, a more modern example, stuff like that.
For an example,
people care because they know who they are.
For a very personal example here, I used to watch every tournament Brian played in for years upon years upon years. If he still played in tournaments regularly, I would be watching his perspective constantly. Like, it helps to have a brand. It helps to have an identity. Admittedly, I would also do it for Sendo. Sendo just fascinates me, though.
Mm-hmm.
Sendo's playstyle intrigues me.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of brands that aren't around anymore, for sure. But it's like, regardless, at some point, our new players need to do something. Because I felt this when FT Win rebranded, and FT Win coming back is awesome.
It is.
And them being in the scene is great. However, and this is not a problem with them at all, I feel like when I've talked to a few people who aren't as invested in the scene about it, and they're like, oh, that's cool, but I already know them, like, I've already seen them for years. Who's new?
And we do have new players. They just don't have a lot of content.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a case of, like, even if they did, and they have their fair share of fans, and it's awesome, viewers also want new names to be invested in. We had that at the start of the season.
Yeah.
We have a lot of players, but not a lot of brands and not a lot of teams. Think about it this way, like, our newest team that's, like, consistently competing for the top here, because if I open the threshold, I bet you could get, like, healthy diet food groups in there who, like,
they've been doing a lot lately.
More than the first tournament video. I told them to make a video. They made a video. 3.7k views. Where's the next one?
Yeah.
You guys got so many views off it. People want to see you. Put yourselves out there. Come on.
Please just upload. And that's part of why I like doing this little interview series. I know it doesn't attract nearly the views, but at least it puts some new voices out there sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to get to hear top level perspectives. I think it's something we don't get a lot of. Look, I'm glad we have commentators for everything. We sure love yapping. we're
I'd
only
recommend getting
so
a healthy
smart
diet
about the
food group
game.
member player on them.
I'll look
Get a
into
healthy
it.
diet food group player on here if you want. I know they can talk for a while because they do a lot of reviews. They have a different, unique style. That's what I'm saying. Their brand is great. They do things in their
Yeah.
own way, and they're finding success with it, and it's awesome. But like, nobody's gonna know who you are if you don't post your actual
You
tournament
have
VODs.
to talk. People
Fuck.
don't know you if you
You
don't
don't
talk.
gotta wait. Your brand's already good. Just get it out there.
Well,
Like,
and I
I want to see this journey before it's over.
I
Get
also
it
would
out
really
there.
love to, like, Henlo's another player I would really love to get on here because Henlo's
Yes.
been consistently improving so much. Synapse, I don't, my brain goes, their blue sky tag is Synapse.
I'm less
Synapse.
harsh on Henlo because I know they're trying. They literally messaged me this morning
Yeah.
talking about trying to get content out there. So like, I know they're going for it.
I really
Like,
Len
I'm
was
less connected, so maybe Healthy Diet is, but it's like, I know these guys have like a bunch of tournament
Yeah.
VODs they could be highlighting right
Len
now. And,
was
like, I
also-
would be getting that. I would be getting that out there. Yeah, Len's another one who should do more.
Len's been
Absolutely.
working on doing more. I think Len's just so busy with art that there's not a ton of time to do
Yeah.
more.
To get back on topic, think about it. Our newest team is Moonlight.
Yeah, that's not great.
Moonlight's been around since late 2023.
Yeah.
There's an entire year and a half that we have no new top teams from.
Yeah, we have new high-level
Now, there's
players,
a reason for that.
but we don't have
Well,
new
there's
top
a reason for
teams.
that. Exactly. And like, these new players are the future of this scene. They gotta put themselves out there. Because like, there's gotta be new people at some point.
Yeah.
And there are, but like, people aren't gonna know of them.
And I'm trying to know of them. I'm in a better situation than most people to get to know
and
of them.
It's too hard. Most people aren't going to put in that
No,
effort.
and I'm in like
Well,
a ridiculously good position to, and I can barely manage to figure out who it is. Like, I'm a commentator that commentates a lot of high and top level stuff, and even I'm like, oh, that's still a new name to me. I try to do research before I come in, and I'm still like, how did I never hear of you? And admittedly, part of that's that I'm not on Twitter anymore, because
Yeah.
I can't ethically and emotionally be there. But a big part of it is also that there's just not, like, I don't know, you at least have to post on the internet. Like, you don't like, videos are great. You can at least do what Kyo does and make inflammatory tweets for fun. Like, post hot takes.
Yeah,
and
literally just posting is fine too.
content.
Like,
Just
most
make
of the
rage
player-
bait for fun a little bit. Come on now.
I'm not gonna call it anyone in specific, but I've had multiple conversations with top players where they're like, "Oh, but no one will care what I think," and I'm like, no.
Wrong. Gray's post
Just
about
post what you think about the game. You guys are like some of the best players in the game, and you don't post about it. Like Fuzzy was one of the few people starting to do
Oh,
that. Like Fuzzy, just
Fuzzy,
posted,
let's go.
Oh, I'd like to see a Splatling comp. You can play all of these.
Yeah.
That's like 100 legs on Blue Sky.
Absolutely.
Just talk about the fucking game, guys. People care. That's why they follow you. Just
Also,
talk.
People could also go the direction Gray goes as I'm pulling something up here. I will hopefully find this. Oh yeah, there's something oddly soothing about Wavebreaker in Splatoon. You drop it down and it emits gentle rhythmic pulses. It's not just about utility, it's about the feel, the satisfaction of placing it just right, the sense that even in the chaos you've carved out a little space of your own. It doesn't even need to be like sensical. Just be a funny guy on the internet. People love a funny guy on the internet.
Just post your thoughts. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Like, that's what I'm saying. If
Yeah.
you're not going to make content, at least post your damn thoughts on the game. I had a scrim. I tried out this weapon. I thought this. I think this weapon good. I think this weapon bad. It doesn't have to be
Exactly.
complicated.
And to move on to another point I know you wanted to talk about, more consistent tournament
I'll
schedule.
get the teams out of the way. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's done to death.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually give some slack as to the reason there's less teams. We talked about earlier in S2 at teams had like a bunch of different people and like there were sub teams and all that. Also, people's comps were fucking horrible.
Yes.
He went also, in addition to popularizing 4 people, also popularized just running good comps. Like constantly having good comps with few exceptions. My team, when we went to PAX, our comp was Brella. Okay, that one was normal. Brella and
Yeah.
Falker is normal. Bamboo and Pro, which were kind of normal, but not paired with Ballpoint. That was not normal. Ballpoint, again, would also be normal if it wasn't paired with the Bamboo. That didn't happen normally. And then Arashi had a fucking Kensa L3 nozzle. It's like, our comp was missing armor, we had overlapping anchors. Our comp was fucking shit. That would not fly in today's day and age.
No.
We would not be able to do that. There's higher individual skill requirements in S3 than S2.
Absolutely.
S2 was not that hard a game to get to top
No,
level.
it's just...
Not that it was easy.
No, but it was
Just
so
relative.
team play focused.
Relative to S3, Yeah, and that too, like, having a team was more important. The player base at top level right now is really small. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of different factors that come together, and it totally makes sense why we have fewer teams. That's why I prioritize, like, just grow your individual
Yeah,
brands.
absolutely.
That said, if we can get more teams, I'd still like it.
Oh, no, absolutely.
FT1 forming is still really good.
It's huge. I love
There
it.
are other groups I see playing.
Yeah.
Like, I see Ice's group, I see Henlo's group.
Henlo and Len, I think, have been playing together a lot, which is great to see because they're two players that have an insane amount of potential.
I've seen that, but I've also seen, like, Henlo, Synapse, and DatKid running, like, a Brush Wiper 96 comp, and I'm like,
look, see how close...
Please commit!
Well,
commit! This is good!
And that's so close. Like, they just need one more player there. And
that's like a good comp. All you need is a pen, and you need Inkbrush to play Inkbrush Nouveau instead, and your comp is so good.
Please.
And it's like you have a set comp on a style, and players who are playing the game just run with it.
And then you just need to upload the most basic content ever. Splatoon fans don't care about your editing most of the time.
We ran a double hammer comp. Our double hammer comp got this result. Brush Wiper is broken. Throw it out there.
Also, I'm going to be completely honest. Most Splatoon fans, like, if you just cut out the time, like, the little screen between sets, they're like, oh, wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
You can
Thank you.
I record in OBS. You can literally pause the recording between games. That's what I do when I upload VODs to the second channel. I just pause and unpause. It's easy.
Yeah. Like.
Okay, so that's the obvious one, right?
Yes.
More people forming the teams, all that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Get it over with. Let's talk the other problem as to the reason there's no teams, because this problem is not just on the players. It's admittedly on tournaments.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Majors are fucking few and far between, and they are usually short notice and usually, like, non-common. The Sendu-Q major and the lead up to that is the only thing we have.
And that's so important, but that's not enough.
Let's go check here. I'm going to pull this up live right now.
Okay.
This is not pre-planned. We're going to go to the leaderboard for teams right now.
There are some real teams
Let's
there.
Let's see how stacked it is. There's the Gray pickup that's been playing consistently. We have Vanguard, which actually, my team stuff was wrong. We do have a new team.
I actually hadn't even heard about them, so this is very exciting for me.
We have the Synapse Lexi DatKid group that I talked about earlier. Yeah. They play with Lexi. We have Moonlight. We have Cricket, Goose, Lemon, and CJ. I don't know who they are. We have Healthy Diet Food
groups. I've heard of some of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
FT Win,
I know, but
shocking.
I don't know the group. We have, FT Win, and then we have, what is it? This is Camden down here. One Shots group, I think they're Mid-Clan Heroes? I forget. And then two other groups that I know players of, but I don't know the group of. I think the Adapt one is people who commonly play together.
Those are definitely people who commonly play together.
Look! Half of it is established groups or teams.
Maybe you guys...
Because it's in advance!
Yeah.
Wow!
Shocking.
What a surprise!
It's so shocking. Also, there's another team that I could see making it up there as I scroll down just a little bit more of Storm, Lucas, Isabel.
Look at we have new meta. We have Grape, Dylan, and Luna who are there.
Yeah.
And then like I see Ori and J-Rod's group there. I see some Squid and Good players. And then
we've also got Monsoon there.
Group,
Monsoon has a chance at getting there.
I'd be surprised if they didn't play, and then Monsoon, like you talked about. I see another French group I'm not familiar with, but another set of player names. I'm sure there's more if I scroll down, but it's like, when this fills out, it'll probably be even more teams than it is now.
Yeah.
It's still a week before. Everyone's going to grind for qual, but it's like, look how many groups show up when there's incentive to stay with the same fucking group. All of a sudden, people play with the same people, because they have to here. It makes sense. It's advantageous, and so people will do it. Right now, if it's like, here's a top level event that just pops up. Here's 2 weeks before it happens. Oh, okay, my group can't do this. This was a problem when we had teams, by the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Major events because they popped up out of nowhere. Arashi can't call off work. GG's.
It's
not there.
Sometimes and this is maybe not as big of a deal, but sometimes they won't even reach out to top commentators until like the tournament's been announced, and it's like, come on, guys. That's how I've gotten opportunities, sure, because I'm just available. But it does kind of rule out, like, there are people better than me, and I will fully admit that. And sometimes people are busy.
Get it announced in advance. Do a format top level likes. It's going to be zones only. There's no way around it. I'm sorry.
Devastating. Boring to commentate.
It's going to be zones only. Or if you do all modes, have a really strict map list at least, if you're going to do that, and maybe no Rainmaker. And you can maybe get away with it, but just know it'll be harder. But maybe you can do it every now and then. Get a cast, a high-quality cast. That's it.
Which that they usually have. I'll give them that.
And then if you get an art prize or a prize pot, obviously those things cost money. But if you get them, that's extra awesome.
Yeah.
I saw Cactus talking about, like, put an offer out there for artists on, like, hey, do you want to draw for this? Because I have connections with a good bit of artists that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I've had plenty who are like, I would love to draw for the winners of a tournament. I'd love to draw for a tournament and help
Well,
support
because
a
it
tournament
also,
team.
well, A, they want to help support tournaments, but B, it gets their name out there too. Like,
yeah, of course.
Obviously, it's still better if you pay them. Don't get me wrong. Please.
No, they should still be paid.
Still pay them.
I think. Like,
but it's good to at least like put it out there. Like, hey, this is something we would love to do. Who would be interested? Who would have the time? Because art prizes used to be way more common than they are now. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, my charity event had some because so many people volunteered because that was obviously an event with no prize anyway.
Yes.
Like everything raised in
it's
that
for
event
charity.
went to charity. But a bunch of people were like, hey, I'll draw art for the teams that develops good people into the event. That was awesome. Shout outs to everyone who drew art for my events, by the way.
Yeah.
Much appreciated. But if you're going with like, obviously if it's an event that's like not a charity event and it's like a prize pot and stuff, I think most teams would probably prefer art over $20 anyway. So like,
yeah.
I can't speak for everyone, but I think it'd be more worth to put that towards the artists and get like artist prizes for it, and that'd be cool. That's obviously something that like I'm not familiar with the communications for, but I think that would help a bit.
Yeah.
And then I've talked before of like, I want majors to have more of a distinction. How about instead of a weekly calendar, monthlies go on a separate monthly calendar. So you have a calendar on Sendu Inc.
Also,
you have your weekly events, and then there's another section, and it's monthly. These are this is the major events in this month that fits these requirements. Their badges, separate like category or something, right?
Yeah.
Have distinctions, create incentive, because like with the teams having little incentive to form teams, TOs need more incentive to make their events larger scale and majors if we want it to happen. You can't just go like, hey guys, can you please just like sacrifice your working hours to make a major just because we want them?
Please.
Like some people will do that.
But also like, that's not a reliable way to run a scene.
I think people who put in more effort to make events larger scale and attract more teams should have their events treated with more priority or like shown off better or given that special category name because they're putting in more work and more work should be rewarded.
Absolutely.
That's how I see it. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not a TO. But that's what I'd like to see just as like a baseline broad idea.
Well, and like I already
talked about the next point, discussions in the game. So shit, I don't have much to say about that. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I would love to see like not a monthly with like the same format of SOS, but at least run to the same quality of SOS. We really don't have any monthlies at all right now besides Low Ink. And Low Inks run amazingly. Don't get me wrong, but it shouldn't be our only big monthly. Unless you can think of any others.
Being like monthly and like upping the quality would be awesome, or groups working together, but that's something where like I don't have the expertise for that.
No, neither do I just commentate.
But yeah, I hope it does improve though. I'm glad it's become community discussion recently.
There's apparently
I hope it's a discussion where things actually happen.
Yeah, there's apparently some big IPL announcement later today, so we could be proven wrong in a matter of hours. We also could not be. I just wanted to make that clear that depending on what it is, we could well be wrong.
All right.
So if we are proven wrong after this was said before.
I'll be vague when I say this. I have gotten multiple like questions about potential major events that people wanted to host and ideas for them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them yet, and it's been 4 or 5 months.
It takes a long time, though.
So it can take a while.
But you still need to announce them far enough out.
I hope some of these escape the kitchen. Clearly, from what it seems like behind the scenes, a lot of people are cooking. They just gotta make it out with the dish.
Well, and what I'd love to see happen again is like an Ink TV Resurgence League again. It's not going to happen again, but that was amazing.
To be honest, until we get a few more established teams, I don't mind leagues being held off. I think, for me, the game plan, get more consistent majors for a bit. Teams will form because of it, hopefully. Then drop your league.
True. Yeah.
Right? But have the qualifiers be normal tournaments. Don't host new tournaments to be the qualifiers.
No,
just promote other events.
Just have a big monthly that's open to everyone. Why don't we have a monthly that's just for everyone right now? Like, just genuinely. We just don't have that. That's odd to me. Because
effort
I
to be
think
monthly.
it's good for low-level teams to go in and get absolutely wiped occasionally. I think it's good for them. As somebody who
Yes,
played
it
like
is.
that, I think it's good
It
for
is.
you.
It is.
It's important to learn how to lose, as not fun as it
Uh,
is. It's also really important to have the low inks and the LSLs to give you space to learn, but also you got
mhm.
scrims for that.
Yes.
And Sendo Q
Uh,
now.
I hear so much of like, oh, I played this team and they're like a div or two better than me, and it felt like we lost instantly. Well, I don't think we learned from that. Okay, go VOD.
Yeah, watch
Go
what they
slow it
did.
down. Go look at what happened because they're playing the same video game as you are. The
Yeah,
things they are doing are not things you can't do. There's just a lack of understanding or better mechanics, and that's fine. You're not going to reach their level, but like the best thing about playing a team higher level than you is they will punish you for mistakes you're making that you don't realize you're making because most mistakes at lower levels go unpunished because no one punishes you for it, and it's hard to recognize you're making a mistake when you don't get punished. You
absolutely.
play a better team, they go, oh shit, they're all sitting on plat on the opening. Suddenly you lost mid instantly
Yeah,
because you didn't walk in. But normally the other team also mutually agrees, oh, mid is scary, I don't want to walk in. So your openings are both teams just sitting on plat, for instance,
exactly.
right? This is a random example,
Well,
right?
but it's a
Just
really
to kind
good
of apply to some
example.
people.
Like one of my big
But it's
things when
like,
I commentate low level is it's like, oh, that space has been open for a weirdly long amount of time. Now that I'm
yeah.
like, I'm by no
And so
means
you've
a top level player or even a high level player, but I've sure commentated enough of it to see the differences.
so it's like you fight a team and you get steamrolled, and it's like it's not there's nothing to learn. It's like, hey, look, you left this open. They took it. No wonder the fight afterward feels bad. The reverse can happen too. Of like,
Absolutely.
hey, you also just ran 3 people into their turf and got killed by a roller, right? The mistake can happen in reverse, but it's like, hey, do you know how you're gonna know? Play a good team. Pop it into a VOD. Think about it.
Watch what
Now,
they
if you don't
did.
want to do that, if you don't care about getting better, that's fine.
And you're
But
told,
I think a lot of
yeah.
people probably want to get better one day.
I
And if
think
we
that's
do,
very true.
it helps. It accelerates the process.
It
Just saying.
helps. Vodding effectively helps so much.
Also, yeah, please VOD. Guys, VODing, this game is too fast. You need to VOD.
In the moment,
Even
you
at
are
lower levels,
making,
it's fast.
yeah, your decisions in the moment are always going to be impulse based in Splatoon because you don't have time for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You can still make team callouts and stuff, but they're still based off of instinct as much as information because you've learned what the patterns look like. You've learned how the game feels. There is not enough time in Splatoon, especially as a player processing all of that and still executing, to be like, here is an exact game plan that we will stick to 100% all of the time. That's not Splatoon in my experience.
Absolutely.
And now commentators get a little, we can see more than you all the time also, as a treat. But even then, there's stuff we're missing because there physically isn't enough time to say everything happening in Splatoon. There just isn't. And that's such a interesting thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And then I think we just have one last.
I already talked about, I already talked about discussion on the game
Yeah.
on social media. We kind of merged that. The other one would be community supporting events. So like this is another social media thing.
Yes.
And maybe we'll see this with the IPL event. Let's see how well this ages.
Well,
right?
we don't know
like,
if it'll
let's
be
say,
an event. I just know that Popgun said they're going to say something today.
Oh, maybe it's just a podcast thing. But okay, well, whatever. Whenever the next big event happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many retweets, Twitter and Blue Sky combined, is that going to get?
For MomoCon? Like none, probably.
How often are we as a community going to share around the stream? When they post stream for MomoCon, top 8 is live, how many people are going to share the stream? My bet is pretty fucking low.
Yeah, I mean, I
right?
agree.
I won't give an exact number, but like, I hear a lot of talk about like the scene being negative or not seeing a lot of positive things because nobody spreads anything. People
You have to.
like I think art is like the only thing where it's spread, and even then it's kind of lower.
Yeah.
Where like you see a good art piece, you see a fucking Twitter clip, you see a major announcement.
Just retweet it. Just repost it.
Just share things around that are positive, and the environment will feel so much better because so many and especially do it for videos, man. We have so many people starting off with their channels and
and that's where the scene grows.
Their video might blow up or reach more people, and then that would help blow it up on YouTube too. So just it's not a complicated thing, but just share things around. I guess point 3 can kind of merge into this of discussion on the game.
Yeah.
Hey, I miss when the community talked about the game. I hated the Trizuka debate at the time because it was kind of a stupid debate, but I miss it now because nobody talks about anything. Is S-Blast too broken? And have a bunch of people actually talk about it. Have a bunch of top players give their take. Have people asking questions in the comments. That'd be awesome, right? Is Edit better than Pen? Stuff like that.
Also,
I never see it. No one talks about the game like this. Like, it never becomes a broader discussion, or almost never. I'd like to see that more. Have actual discussions about the damn game. We all are here to play competitively.
absolutely. The other thing that people could do is make tier lists that they know are wrong just to incentivize discussion for fun and entertainment.
Tier lists are one of the only ways I see community discussion happen because tier lists are a very accessible format. Tier lists are not a good format
No,
for Splatoon.
they're so antagonizing. They're so funny.
They will be eternal, though, because everyone knows what it is and everyone likes talking about them, and a viewer from a game that's not Splatoon can look at a tier list and understand what it means.
And that can be a gateway into the scene, too, on top of that.
Yeah, my tier lists tend to be some of my more popular videos relatively consistently.
Also, you can just post one that's kind of weird on, like, Blue Sky or Twitter, and it will get engagement, and you will get to talk to people. Like, that's a win.
Yeah.
You get to annoy people on the internet.
Any top players who want to branch into content creation, make a tier list video. I promise you it will do well.
I mean, if we really want to do a old reference back here, I'm pretty sure Sendo made one at one point. I'm going to search it if he still has his channel up.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure he does. Absolutely. Oh, no, he had a video complaining about tier lists along with one making it for Splatoon 2 1.0.
Yeah.
Good for
it's fine.
Absolutely.
Most of the people at a top level know that tier lists are a flawed
I
format.
think most people even in low level know that. I don't think that's a secret. But they're a really great way to start a conversation. They're not a set thing. But, like, obviously there's a lot of interpretation, there's a lot of variation. But if they're not a good way to start a discussion, what else is? Because you are going to get people feeling some sort of way.
Yeah.
And just creating a place where people feel like because nobody's going to get mad at you if you say a weapon's bad. Let's be real. Like, people will be like, I disagree. Nobody's going to be like, I think people in Splatoon occasionally get very worried that they're going to get in trouble for stuff, which is just not usually true. You have to be actively very bad to get in trouble, usually, in my experience. Usually, you can just kind of go, like, Kyo doesn't... A good example here is when Kyo decides to shit-talk other top teams, for example. I think we need a little more of that. In, like, the good fun way Kyo does it, of never being mean about them as a person, just shit-talking their play.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line you have to walk there.
Yes.
Make sure the other side is comfortable, and, like... My big thing is if you're shit-talking, don't punch down.
Absolutely.
If
Well,
you're shit-talking
hard for
a team
Kyo.
You know you're comfortably better than, like... that it's kind of lame. I think shit talk is only interesting when you're shit talking someone that might beat you and then it's interesting. It's like, oh shit, there's an inherent risk here.
Yeah, the peak of when it was like at its most interesting to me was like FT Win versus Starburst, where Starburst was typically better, but Kyo would still shit talk for fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, it's more. If you're gonna shit talk, it has to be interesting to me. Like, it has to be back and forth. Like,
yeah,
healthy rivalries are great, right?
Also,
when the two of them are. It's fine.
Yeah.
My one that I can remember, I have to use this example because, like,
absolutely.
it is just frankly the best one. Is an old example, but I'm bringing it up. It's like the big house where, like, Kyo and Zero would, like, scream at each other in person.
Yeah, I was there.
Like,
that was the best.
It's all for show, right? And it's two people that could reasonably beat each other. They're friends, they're comfortable, and it's for show, and it's still just talking about
it's
the game.
It's for the content. Right? It's like pro wrestling. It's just for the bit.
Exactly. That's the comparison, right? It should be somewhat, not
we
totally
need
fake,
more heels in competitive Splatoon.
Yeah, it should be, like, because I think the thing where shit-talking goes far is doing it with people who aren't comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And if some people don't want to be shit-talked, right?
You can actively pre-plan your shit talk in DMs. Yeah. I'm going to be so real. It doesn't need to be spur of the moment. It can be planned.
I can understand also, like, a little bit of, like, oh, there's shit, we can do this if you're, like, in a tournament game. And
absolutely.
The, like, adrenaline or mentality. But, like, that is the extent it should be if the other team isn't comfortable with it. I don't think you need to do anything more.
No, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, I think it's totally valid to even, like, reach out and be like, hey, is this something you're cool with? I think it's something even low-level teams could do, because by the top of Low Inc., teams have been around long enough for them to do that to each other. Like, I don't know if you remember the Wiggly Phantoms, but they sure had a following.
I don't, sadly.
That's totally fair. They were probably the most known about low-level team because they had, you know, of Jub at least. Probably. Jub was completely doing all of their social media content and was nailing every post, essentially. They were probably the best branded team I have seen in Splatoon. And I wish that I would see a top-level team put the same energy into shit posting, essentially.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's so time-consuming. That's so much to ask for. But also, the amount of engagement it would get, wild.
Yeah.
But to wrap it up on a high point, what's your favorite moment been in your Splatoon journey?
I mean, it has to be just lands in general are awesome to go to. PAX is the big one, obviously. Going to a Nintendo event, seeing my friends and all that in person is awesome. What is it? It's not even Riptide. I forgot what it's called.
Well, LTC's gone.
No, the event up north that went to the fifth one of that event up north. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, yeah. Squid Storm, maybe?
No, it's not Squid Storm. It was the one that Riptide succeeded. Basically.
Yeah, it was the Kalahari one before Riptide.
Sink or Swim?
No, Sink or Swim is that's the weekly.
I forgot what it was called. It was a Smash event, right?
Yeah.
That one I got to see even more of my teammates. That one had like the most amount of friends for a while. LTC 2024 is really special for me, and Riptide 2024 is for also like seeing like a very different group of friends that like the people I hang out normally with, like a lot of Moonlight and people close to them. That's like a consistent group that still talks. There's a few. If I had to pick one off the top of my head, it'd have to be PAX just because it's a Nintendo event and like doing that is cool.
Yeah.
The interview that never saw the light of day, probably for the better. Dude, that's like a random story. We had to make inkling noises in it. And, yeah, it never saw the light of day.
Good, you know what? Good for Nintendo.
Somewhere out there. Somewhere out there.
They do love to make content, just in case they want it someday.
They changed it up in S3. Like, S3, I remember they had that with, like, they had captains interviews instead of all the players who were just captains, and there was something related to inkling sounds, but it was toned back.
Which is
much,
good.
Much less egregious. So, like...
Because admittedly, one of the biggest divides in my experience between comp and casual Splatoon players is the amount to which you actually care about the little characters in the game.
But yeah, we got to... there's so much from PAX. It's like getting... I remember I got Watson's Switch because they reuse the switches that they use every single time.
Oh, interesting.
Asking if I could unlock Hero Brella. They said no. So I had to use Splat Brella for like one of the first times because I like famously did not use Splat Brella. It was like a channel point reward that I used like way later. But it was that, you know, the little like the different hotel rooms and hanging out with a lot of the teams and becoming friends with people. There was an arcade we got to go to with like bowling and stuff that was fun. You know, the interview with Nintendo was still awesome.
Yeah.
Like hanging out there, being backstage at PAX, seeing the Sheldon's kits be revealed, like looking at it live.
Oh.
Probably the best one was like hugging FT Win after we lost the set. Like the sportsmanship there was something that was really great. I forgot who came up with the idea. I think it might have been Gamer who did it. I don't quite remember. But like that was just a really good moment that I remember as well. There's a lot there. That experience is like very special to me. So if I had to pick, it'd be that one. And it, you know, it also helps that we had a really good tournament run. If we won and went to Worlds, that would definitely be there would be no question. But I'd still put it there. It was still probably.
And LANs are just such a magic experience in general. I always say, my opinion is always, if you can make it to a LAN, you should. As long as it is not financially prohibitive, as long as it is not going to actively impede the way you need to live your life, I haven't been to one of the locals because there have been none near me, but actual LANs, they're just, and I'm sure the locals are too, they're just magic.
Yeah, for sure.
Lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to wrap this all up, where can people find you? I'm sure most of them will already know, but...
It's ProChara on YouTube. I stream on Twitch, but I also stream on YouTube, but if you prefer watching on Twitch, it's there. And then I have a Blue Sky. I don't use Twitter or TikTok right now. I've debated posting a TikTok video every now and then, but I probably won't. I kind of prefer keeping it smaller. So that's where you can find me. And yeah, I just do YouTube stuff, and we'll see what happens. And I have a VODdom channel that's ProChara VODdom. Yay.
And obviously, you've already found where to find me. I guess if you want to see more updates, NoxRaven42 on Blue Sky. And probably some random Splatoon cast. That'll be it.